Welcome to the brand new season of the Crush the Rush podcast. I'm Holly Haynes, and inside this episode, I'm pulling back the curtain and sharing the real story behind how this podcast got started, how it's grown. We've welcomed over 2,000 new subscribers in the last 90 days. Oh my goodness. And the shifts that I'm making to help build your business that supports your real life, not just the hustle. So inside this episode, we're walking through why this was never just a podcast, what's changing, what's staying the same, how I'm leaning even deeper into a life priorities first business model, and personal updates, client stories, and what is coming next. So whether you're brand new or you've been with me since episode 1, my hope is that this helps you reconnect with your why, helps you get excited about the new season, and actually build a business strategy that feels really good to run. Hit play, then check out all the episodes and tools waiting for you at hollymariehaynes.com. Let's crush the rush together. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Crush the Rush podcast. Today's episode is a little different and honestly a little bit overdue. If you've been around for a minute, we took most of the summer off. So this is a fresh new episode after a much needed summer break. And you might notice some new things that are popping up in the podcast. And so I wanted to take a minute to just take you behind the scenes a little bit and share the real origin story of this show. So how it started, how it evolved, why we made some big shifts lately, and just like slowing down a little bit to reflect what matters most before we get into the busy fall season. And the truth of the matter is this podcast was never just a podcast, right? So let's rewind a little bit. We have a lot of new amazing women in our world. And so it's really important. I want you to hear our story and hear our journey. But also for those of you that have been around for a while, I think it's kind of fun to reminisce. So let's rewind to March of 2020. And yes, it was that March. Everything was shutting down. There was a pandemic going on. Do we still talk about the pandemic? I don't even know. I was still working in corporate. Very full-time, very, very full-time. I had this idea, honestly, you've heard me say it before, because I wanted to be able to put my girls on the bus and get them off the bus. And I didn't know how that was going to work in my current state. And I had this idea to mentor women in business. I didn't know what it looked like. I was brand new. I'd never really done anything online before. And I didn't really have anything around Crush the Rush figured out, except the name came to me in the shower because I just felt like I was always on a hamster wheel. And it was like I could get off the hamster wheel for a minute to like go on vacation or do something a little bit different. But then I would get right back on and it was kind of exhausting. And so I was like, I want to get out of the cycle. I want to like crush the feeling of being rushed all the time. And if I'm being honest, I don't love the name Crush the Rush, but all of my team and business coaches are like, no, you can't change it now. Like you're in it. You got to love it. So we're going to love it. I did not have a business model at the time. I had nothing except a microphone. And if I'm being honest, it was not even a fancy microphone. It was like $75 on Amazon. And the very first episode I recorded in our basement. I remember being in our basement. It was dark. We hadn't like refinished it or anything yet. And I was like under a blanket talking and I used the video. Like it cringe. Like it's so cringe, as my girls would say. But the podcast was my testing ground. So at first, the very first episode, which is still here, I kind of want to take it down because now you guys are all going to go listen to it. But I refuse. I refuse to listen to it. I talked about productivity and morning routines. And I thought that productivity was what people wanted. And I knew that I was good at it. I used to have people that I worked with that said, like, Holly, it's not a coincidence that you had twins because that's the most efficient way to have 2 children. And you're just very efficient. So I knew that that was something that I could teach. And I love a good time block, but that wasn't it. But I think you have to try it to figure out that like that's not it and then keep going into what is it. And so over time, I got braver and started sharing like actual things that we were doing behind the scenes, actual strategies, things I was doing in my corporate career, but also like how we were adapting as a family during the pandemic, what we were doing, how I was building a business from scratch, who I was hiring, what was working, what was not working. And it was like this big puzzle that I shared and continued to share publicly. And I think that's what has resonated so much. So it's a puzzle, a public puzzle that I love sharing. What are the steps? What are the levers? What's the simplest way to scale and still have a life, right? And as I personally grew and our business grew, our podcast grew too. And so that's the organic story of where Crush the Rush came from. So over 500 episodes later, it has definitely turned into something bigger than sitting in my dark basement under a blanket talking about time blocking. We've been able to welcome some really amazing guests, which I can't even believe that we've had on the show. We've had Jenna Kutcher, Amy Porterfield, and Anthony Trucks. Oh, this year we had Gemma Bottom Carter and Colleen Nichols and Ellen Yin and Heather Chauvin and so many amazing women. But here's the thing. The real MVPs are our amazing clients who you know who you are. You're the backbone of everything we do. And so we started highlighting you on the podcast. And so over time, we have had at least once a month, one client story. So we're able to highlight you and share what you do, but also share a peek in behind the scenes of our community, which again is kind of our model. Like, I'm just going to tell you what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I hope that you can take a piece of it and make it your own. And so, I think it's been really fun to see our clients evolve and to share that publicly, to share how we've evolved and to share that publicly. But we also did take a little bit of a breather this summer. And if I'm being honest, I was really nervous about that because typically we have 2 new episodes every single week, 1 guest episode and 1 individual episode, which is me. The guest episodes continued because we get pretty far ahead with those, but the individual episodes, I felt like I needed a break, not because I don't love the podcast, because I wanted to come up with a new idea or new energy. And I don't even know if I've fully gotten there yet, but we paused. And the crazy thing about the pause is we strategically put together some of our favorite episodes in series. So June was a series and July was a series. And the series did just as well as our original episodes. So if you feel like you are being called to pause, I would say do it intentionally, which we did. And the cool part is we've added over 2,000 new email subscribers in the last 90 days. Like, that is something I did not expect this summer, if I'm being honest. So we have had extraordinary growth in a pause. And I think that just goes to show that you don't have to keep producing to take a minute for yourself to figure out what's next. So I am excited for all of you new listeners to welcome you to our journey, to our podcast, and wanted to share, like, what does this look like going forward? So we gave the podcast a little makeover. We didn't rebrand because I am tied to Crush the Rush, even though I kind of really wanted to rename it. We'll see. But for now, we're calling it a reset, right? So we've got new logos. We introduced some new colors. Most of the colors are the same. We introduced a darker maroon color, which is supposed to represent like the sort of corporate, more sophisticated side of Crush the Rush, because I feel like the pink and the teal is more fun. And then we have yellow. I call her citrine. I love yellow. I had my colors done, and yellow is like one of the colors that surprised me that look good on me. And I'm like, well, if that's the case, like, let's add it into Crush the Rush. It was more of a mustard color, and now it's just like this bright, vibrant, it reminds me of like sunshine and energy. And so there was some intention behind adding those 2 new colors. And then we're really leaning into new and different interview questions. I went on a mission this summer to listen to a lot of podcasts that I might not have listened to in the past, really doing some research on the format that I liked and the questions that I liked and what I really wanted to know. And I really want this podcast to stand out as a business podcast. It's still a business podcast, a strategy podcast, but we really want to dig into like, how do we make this business that you're building work for you in real life? So it's not about, women coming in who have a $7 million brand telling you what works for them, because that's not real life. I mean, it's not for me. But also, I want you to hear real life stories. Like, how are we able to take a trip once a quarter? What are the like tactical things that we're doing so that you can implement things that work for you as well? So you're going to start hearing more personal updates. I think I'm pretty open about what we're doing behind the scenes, but I'm being very intentional about what we're sharing and how we're sharing. And I want you to bring you behind the curtain even more. Client stories, so not just the highlight reel, as I mentioned, but real women doing this on their terms with messy schedules and limited time, like what is actually working right now. And then, let's just get straight to the point. We're all busy. You're probably listening to this on like 1.5 times speed. That's totally fine. But I want to really be intentional about creating content that reflects the life priorities-based business that you want, because it's different for all of us. And so that's our mission going forward. And, I'll go behind the scenes a little bit and share what this has looked like for me this summer. I will say less social, but here, I'll just be honest. Here's the interesting take on this. So I don't have a social media posting plan this summer. We heavily repurpose our social media content. So if there is a lot of posts, it's because it's repurposed. And I just didn't want to do it this summer, if I'm being honest. So I was like, okay, we're not doing that. But then I was like, well, I kind of like it. And I have created systems where creating is fun for me. And so I was like, okay, every once in a while, I'm going to post just for fun. And so I have done that. We've had like a couple of carousel posts and a few fun reels. But at the beginning of the summer, my scrolling was out of control because I had more time on my hands than I normally do, and I didn't know what to do with it, which I'm kind of embarrassed to admit, but I'm not great at hobbies. I walk a lot, but honestly, I'm already walking like an hour a day. I'm like, should we walk 2 hours a day? Like, I don't know. And so it was just a different, what is the word? Just felt different to me. And so I had to really, really dial in my scrolling. But for the most part, summer has been less social. It has been more intention. And I have had people share with me behind the scenes that I'm one of the most intentional people they have met. Everything I do is with intention, like down to the color of my pedicure. That's just how my brain works. So I'm very proud of that. But I've tried really hard this summer to do things with intention. So if I am working, I'm working on certain days on certain projects that I know are going to move the needle long term, and that's it. Or if we're doing things with our family, like it's very intentional of what we're doing and how we're doing it, which leads to my whole mission this summer was to be where your feet are. So right now, when I'm recording this podcast, my girls are at Vacation Bible School. So my feet are in business mode, and I'm going to do that until they get home, and then we switch, right? And so I really tried and have tried to be super present with whatever activity that we're doing. And then because summer feels like a little bit of a whiplash sometimes, I've really implemented what is one thing that matters the most today and how am I going to execute on that. So my girls are starting 6th grade this year, there's big feelings, big emotions, lots of hormones going on. And so a lot of times the one thing that day is like, are they okay? Like, are we focusing on what they need to like have a successful start to the school year? And then other things like today is like, do we have the podcast episodes ready to go? And then we're moving on. So be where your feet are. And then like, what's the one thing that matters today? Like, what can you focus on? What's that one thing? Small rewards. So I have to stay motivated by a reward system, which maybe is a little embarrassing, but it's like a sticker chart. I need a sticker chart, or I need something to be like, yes, you did this. Because if you are always waiting for external rewards, you're like never going to get where you want to go. And so it's little things for me, like, okay, I'm going to record 4 podcasts and I'm going to take a walk, or I'm going to record 4 podcasts and then I'm going to eat lunch without my screen and watch Real Housewives on the patio. Like I try to sort of layer in these like little rewards throughout the day. Obviously, it can be bigger things like massages or vacations or other things that you like, but small rewards have worked really well for us. And then finally, it's the reminder that you are more than just business. And again, I had a moment this summer because I had more free time than I've had in a while where I was like, well, what am I if I'm not a business owner? Like, who am I if I'm not? And like, what do I really want? And so to answer that question, I don't know the answer, if I'm being honest. We're working on it. But also we're bringing in more guests to speak to the mindset work, the soul work, and the inner stuff, because I think the strategy and soul like have to go hand in hand and you have to tell both. So why am I telling you all this? Because I know we're in the same boat. You're juggling business and family and a million priorities. And you're probably wondering like, is this really sustainable? The economy really sucks right now. This is so hard. I have these questions too, but this podcast is proof that you can, right? Like I always joke that I have had a business only in a pandemic, a financial crisis, a crazy election, and whatever is going on now. Like you can do it, but we got to do it in a different way. We have to think about building it differently, something that is sustainable and something that brings us joy and that is fun, instead of, oh, I have to do these 17 things and then be super frustrated that it didn't work out the way that you wanted to. So this summer, I took almost 2 full months off from recording podcasts, scheduled all of my emails for the week, traveled a lot, took a lot of midweek walks, little baby rewards, and nothing broke, right? Revenue still came in. And I just wanted to share that that's proof that it is possible to do something different, right? If you want to pause. If you're feeling like you're going all in, sprint. It's okay. You don't have to follow this copy and paste model. So I wanted to end today with a couple of questions to really help you step into your next level. As this podcast steps into its next level, as I step into my next level, here's some questions to think about how you can step into your next level. So question number 1, what would your business look like if it was truly built around your life priorities? What would it look like? What would it feel like? What would you do on like your dream day? What would that look like? If you had to choose just one thing to focus on this season, what would it be? I mean, we just need to pause and answer that question, I think, because then life gets a lot easier. Where are you overcomplicating things that could be systematized, batched, or are you ready? Deleted. Like, can we just get rid of it? If it's been on your to-do list for 6 months, like, do you really need to do it at this point? I don't know. Probably not. What's one area of your business that could keep running without you if you took a break? How can you lean into that more? And then last but not least, when's the last time you defined what success means to you? What does success mean to you? Does it mean that you're going to accomplish XYZ, or does it mean that you're going to travel a certain place, you're going to do a certain activity? Like, what does that look like for you? I always say success to me is very rarely tied to money. It's almost always a feeling or an experience. So I would love for you to think of it that way. And then just as a bonus, because this is a business podcast, what would make your next 90 days feel peaceful and profitable? What would make your next 90 days feel peaceful and profitable? So this is just your reminder that you don't have to hustle 24/7. You don't need a broy, salesy playbook. You can be wildly successful. And as I say, take your kids to dance class and put them on a bus. You can take a vacation and hit your revenue goals. You can be an amazing parent and a powerful CEO. And this is the next chapter of the Crush the Rush podcast. And I just wanted to say thank you for listening. We're so glad you are here. And I love to hear what you want to hear. So send me a DM, shoot me an email, and tell me, what does a life first business mean to you? What topics do you want to hear? I would love to hear from you. And cheers to what's next. Let's crush the rush the most intentional way possible.